Well, for more, I'm joined now in the studio by our International Affairs editor, Andrew Hilliars. Hi, Andrew.
Hi.
So we know that the US is pushing for a fresh round of talks in Florida as early as next week. Has there been any progress, any real progress in recent weeks?
Well, just to remind viewers that the US has already mediated 2 rounds of talks between both sides, Ukrainian and Russian sides, in Abu Dhabi in recent weeks. Volodymyr Zelensky said on Friday that the possibility of a trilateral meeting between leaders had been discussed at those talks, but that was just a possibility that was discussed. Incidentally as well, last week Donald Trump did say that Russia had agreed to a 1-week ceasefire on energy facilities, but as we just saw in that report there, that only lasted 4 days before Russia launched an assault involving more ballistic missiles than any other attack since the beginning of the war, which plunged Ukrainians into blackouts amid freezing temperatures expected to descend as low as minus 20 degrees Celsius by Monday. So Washington also reportedly asked Russia and Ukraine to agree to a fresh ceasefire on energy strikes. But of course, there's there's very little trust on the Ukrainian side regarding Russia's desire to actually respect these energy ceasefires. So, I mean, essentially, there hasn't really been any big breakthrough in these talks. There have, however, been agreements on prisoner exchanges. Now, this is something that we have seen before at the conclusion of these talks. We also saw them at previous rounds of talks in Istanbul, for example, and that in itself can be considered progress.
So Donald Trump, the US president, is saying that he wants the two warring sides to come to an agreement before June. How likely is that looking at this point?
Well, look, Volodymyr Zelensky says that the US delegation has offered a clear timetable to end the fighting by June. Now, US-led efforts to end the war have stepped up in recent weeks, according to Ukraine's president, and you alluded to this yourself. Washington has offered to host talks between both sides next week. Now, the significance of that is that this would be the first time both negotiating teams would meet on US soil, probably in Miami. But, you know, essentially, actually, these talks aren't going to advance so long as the issue of territory has not been resolved. And this is the most difficult topic. Ukraine has proposed freezing the conflict along the current lines. Russia has always rejected that. It wants full control of the Donetsk region. Remember, Ukraine still holds pockets of territory in Donetsk. In particular, it has invested huge sums of money in building up defensive fortifications and infrastructure to hold on to that remaining pocket of territory, so it won't give that up very easily. Washington is pushing Kyiv to convert land it controls in Donetsk into a so-called free economic zone, a zone in which neither side would have military control. Now, another sticking point, actually, is the fate of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant. That's also contested. Russia has controlled that plant since the beginning of the war. Another point worth mentioning is what is behind this fresh push for a settlement. Well, according to President Zelensky, domestic politics in the US could be at play here. He's hinted that political considerations are shaping the Trump administration's approach to this war, and he's probably referring to the midterm elections, which will be coming up later this year. He told reporters on Friday evening, again, he said, elections are important for them. Let's not be naive. But essentially, Haxi, as I said, unless there's progress made on the issue of territory, there's still little chance of any kind of settlement being reached by June.
Andrew Hilliars, thank you very much.